One last thing I want to talk about from the game, and I'm surprised I waited 54 minutes to bring it up. But after Quentin Johnson has the drop, Chargers punt, Ravens a few plays later, Justice Hill busts the 51-yarder, and that feels like the dagger, 30-16. The Chargers get the ball back. They're moving down the field because they had a nice return, got the ball to the 45. 3rd and 18. The deep pass down the left side to Joshua Palmer. The interference call. Now, I know I fully appreciate, respect, and understand your perspective as a defensive player. But pass interference, it's like magic 8-ball rules. Like, you never know what the call is going to be. You're always waiting for the little rectangle that comes up, yellow flag on the screen after a stop like that. There's no consistency to it. I think it's funny when they get together and talk about it afterward because it's not like you can go back and watch it. You're comparing notes on a memory that was formed like that. Oh, well, I saw this, I saw that. You didn't see shit. You're guessing at what you saw. Trust the guy who's right there. I always think it's nuts when they gather guys who are all over the field to dispute the decision-making of the guy who was right there and witnessed it from 5 feet away. And look, 2 things. Number one, they called interference for less than what happened on that play, from the grabbing and the pulling and the restraining. And number 2, and I've tweeted this before and people lose their minds, and I'm going to say it again here. This whole uncatchable thing. Folks, we are talking about superhuman athletes who can jump, who can run, who can contort their bodies. That ball was catchable if the player isn't restrained from catching it, because he's going to be farther down the field. He's going to be in a position where he can throw his arms up, he can twist around, he can jump. We see guys make incredible catches all the time when they're not restrained by another human being. So, and yes, my selfish motive was I picked the Chargers to win, and I wanted them to score there, so I was pissed. I'll admit it. But I still, that the randomness of contact drawing or not drawing a foul, less contact drawing a foul, more contact not drawing a foul, and this whole uncatchable thing, and they never did explain it. That's the other thing that bothered me. Tell me what your ruling is. Nobody was doing this. I didn't see anybody do this other than, the coaches for Baltimore. They're doing that, and the players. But I didn't see any other officials explaining, and I was hoping they'd have a pool report last night where somebody would explain what happened on that play, because that was a key moment in the game. If that flag stays on the ground, it's 30-23 a lot earlier, with time to get the ball back and force overtime or win it in regulation.
I think we all know where I stand if I thought it was pass interference or not. But what I will say is I don't like the thought of, if I'm on offense or I'm on defense, anytime a flag is thrown and what happens from the guy who throws the flag. Like, I understand sometimes when you see a ball deep down the sideline and a defensive back has a guy pinned to the sideline, and that rep that's the closest has an angle where he's trying to look through the receiver to the defensive back. So sometimes he can't see if the defensive back is holding a guy's arm and preventing him from raising his arm. Then I appreciate the middle official coming in and saying, hey, from your angle, you couldn't see it, but he grabbed his arm. But right there on that play, you have 2 guys going down the field. Palmer kind of slows down. Stevens gets even with him, puts his hands on him. Now his hands are on him. Palmer probably should have kept running. I thought if he kept running, it was an easy pass interference call because Stevens' hands are on him, and I thought he would have kept running and let the ball drop in, and if he would have had his hands on him, it would have been obvious. But he kind of stops his feet, and when he stops his feet, he jumps. And as we watch the play, it looks like he stops too short and the ball goes high. But when you watch it, and especially this is why I hate when they show slow motions, because I think in slow-mo, everything's a pass interference. You're going to be a half a second early. All that stuff shows up. But in slow motion, when they replay it, you're like, oh, he's grabbing him. He's holding him. He can't jump. He can't do anything. But I thought at that time, it felt like the refs thought the ball wouldn't be catchable. But to your credit, what you said, nobody said any of that. They basically came back and it felt like it was, well, we thought it was pass interference, but it wasn't. But then it's like, well, are you watching the replay in the stadium? Like, what is going on of why you don't see this as pass interference? So I agree with you. I just think once you get out there and you play, if you drop a flag like that right there, like they call pass interference in slow motion. Yep, he grabs him on the back. When that play was live, I could not tell
That
he
was
grabbed him.
less than the one we were talking
Yes.
about. That was less contact than the one that we're talking about.
No doubt about it. And the one we're talking about was like a 45, 50-yard bomb. So like you said, it was game-changing play that would have put the ball right around like the 2-yard line. So I just think that if you're going to have that situation where you drop a flag and everybody huddles up, to me, you have to explain why there's no longer a flag on the field and it's not a penalty.
There's so much more we could talk about here. The one last thing I'll say about this, well, I want to say one thing and then I have a question for you. And I know we've already crossed the 1 hour mark of the show and we still got 6 more segments, but, and now I've forgotten what I was going to say. So I'm going to move on to the question that I have for you. You talked about frame by frame. I thought back last night to 2019, the 1-year experiment of making pass interference calls and non-calls subject to replay review. And Al Riveron at the league office was doing that frame by frame. And I remember he was doing the preseason seminars where he meets with the networks and he was showing broadcasters, oh, look, under these new rules, this would have been interference. And people were like, what the like what? That would be interference? Are you kidding me? And that year was a bleep show. Try to be good. I'm curious. You're playing for the Patriots. You're dealing with the all-time great in-game and game prep coach of all time who's going to factor all this stuff in. Was it nuts that year for you guys when Bill Belichick's trying to explain what is and isn't pass interference and how they're calling this, especially when Al Riveron has a chance to go in and tweak the rules?
We used to do these meetings every year where the refs would come in and they would officiate one of our practices. And then after, while they were there, they would come in with the rules video or update to the rules or whatever they would show us and then be available for questions. So like you just said, we watched that video. So the back right corner, the middle was our defensive back section, defensive coaches, DB coaches, all of that. We were in there for like a good 45 minutes because we started with the plays, and then what I always loved about Bill is Bill goes hands-on. So he asked one of the officials to stand up in the meeting room, and he's like, all right, you're facing this way, and he turns the guy's body to be facing a certain way, and he's like, we're running, and now they're slapping hands running to show, and it's just like, this is pass interference, that's passing it. I mean, it was going to be the worst year ever in football because that preseason, like, again, everything is pass interference in slow motion. When you go frame by frame, it's impossible not to. Like there's no way you're going to always be after the ball. So yeah, that was one of the longest meetings I've ever been in with the officials because the amount of back and forth we were going. Then Bill had plays from the previous season that we pulled up to watch again. So yeah, I'm happy they took away with that. It was, to me, it was a common sense thing. You can't review pass interference.
There was a play that really got people fired up, and I can't remember the specifics, but it was Mike Williams making a catch for the Chargers against the Chiefs in a late season game 2018. And the big disclosure from Al Riveron was, not only was it not what you thought it was actually this. Like, it was like, what the hell is this? Oh, my God, this is going to be a bad, bad year. Here's the last point I want to make as it relates to the pool reports that are sometimes available after games. Because last night, I believe, we should have heard from the referee to explain what happened. Especially if we're going to have transparency, legalized gambling, a big play like that, where the official on the scene drops the flag, and they caucus, and the flag gets picked up. I want to know what happened. And because the referees aren't available like every player has to be, every coach has to be, let's activate the pool report and let's get an explanation. And it's a missed opportunity. My understanding is one of the reporters, credentialed for the game, has to ask for it. And if nobody asks for it, it doesn't happen. It shouldn't be that way. The referee, I don't need the whole crew, but Devin, I think the referee should be available to reporters after every game. period. If they want to have transparency, if they want people to believe in the integrity of the game, there's the integrity of the game as it exists, and then there's what people think the integrity of the game is. If you want people to believe the game has integrity, you've got to make the referee available after every game. It is ludicrous to me that there's this weird procedure where, well, if somebody asks for it, we'll do it. Bullshit. Make them available. Make them available and let somebody go in there and say, can you explain what happened? Because, when you know the guy's going to be available, part of doing your job is, hey, what question should I ask for the referee? Hey, ask him about that play in the fourth quarter where they picked up. Oh, yeah, that's good. I'll ask. Yeah, it's a good one, Skip. I'll ask him about that. That's what needs to be done every single game. That will help create the impression of transparency, and it'll help some of the fans who want to put on the tinfoil hat, Devin, be less inclined to say, something's fishy here, something's fixed, something's rigged.
Yeah, and I won't go into too deep because I know we're over, but I think that also starts with, hey, why don't we make the officials full-time employees? Why don't we give them all of these benefits so then it doesn't seem ludicrous to say, hey, we're paying you well, you're well compensated, you got insurance, you got all of this. Yeah, come and do like everybody else does when the player gets beat for a touchdown or the coach makes a bad call and they lose the game. Let's come and hear from you. It doesn't mean we can crucify the officials. They're human. But let's hear at least the thought process of what was going on, how it transpired. But I think that comes from a bigger issue of a lot of these officials are either retired or they have full-time jobs or other jobs in the offseason, which to me, that all can be remedied with, let's employ these guys full-time and make them these are our NFL officials that represent the league, the integrity of the league. Let's make that a thing.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.